Okay, so lately I have been thinking about friendship a lot and what friendship looks like at this stage in my life. Friendship does not look or feel the same way it did in my early 20s. When I think back to what friendship looked like and felt like in my early 20s, there were a lot of people around and it was very much hustle and bustle. It was like out all the time, going home at 5 a.m., like going out like 4 or 5 times a week, and just having a ball because we're young, we're hot, we're in the city, and like the city is ours. And when I think about what friendship looks like and feels like now, I think I have to factor in that New York isn't what it was 10 years ago. And I think that has just like deeply affected me. And then I also have to factor in like the big life changes that have happened. Like in 2019, my mom passed, and that like deeply changed me as a person. And then in 2020, COVID happened and the world shut down for 3 years. And I feel like we don't really talk about that enough for me. I feel like we are experiencing the effects of that time and nobody's talking about that. And everybody's just like, oh my God, why is everybody so weird? Why is everybody not communicating well? Why this, why that? And I think we can really point back to that specific point in time and how that has like deeply affected us in certain ways. I think it has definitely affected the culture in New York. I think it affected the way that we communicate to each other. I think we can also tie things back to social media and how we are deeply online, but because of that time where we couldn't really see each other and the only way we could actually do that was online. And I think that people just never really got offline from that time. I think that has affected the way that we look at friendship. I think that affects the way that friendships feel. I think that's true for me. I look around now as a 32-year-old and I realize that I just don't have like a core group of friends. And I'm reflecting on that because I'm like, where did y'all go? Where are y'all? Hello? And and it's like as you grow, like some people will just naturally fall out of your life, which is like, yes. And I feel like when that was happening, I was kind of just like, oh my God. Like the world was shaking, my world was shaking. And it was a couple of those losses of friendships were deeply heartbreaking because I was just like, wow, this is a person that I thought was going to be in my life forever, and like they're no longer here. And I think my circle just kept getting smaller and smaller. And when you factor in, being inside and not really being able to make as many friends, and then it's like there was a period after when the world kind of opened up and I was just like still inside, and I was like, girl, I like my house, I like my peace, I like my quiet, but it's like I liked it a little too much. And then it's like, okay, well, now I gotta get out there because I need a job. Your girl needs some. And then you also have to factor in, like, I was working a job where, I was getting out of the house, not that often because we were working remote, which, whatever. But they weren't paying me that much. And it's like when you live in New York and you're single and you live alone, baby, the paychecks be looking like, after you done paid all the bills, the paychecks be looking like $2. What am I supposed to do with that? And then we go back to the fact that New York has changed significantly from when I was bopping around in my early 20s, and I would leave the house with literally $30 and I would be like, I'm good. I'm good. Like, I'm not worried about anything. But like, now I'm an adult and I don't have too many things that I can fall back on, and I do have to worry about things. You think I'm gonna leave the house with $30? Why would I do that? I'm not doing that. I'm not leaving my house. I paid my bills. I'm gonna enjoy my rent, and that's pretty much it. You know, so there was like a lot of factors in there, and then it's like losing friends, not going out as much, don't have enough money, changing as a person. I've experienced in the past 10 years, almost 13 years, I'm just like a completely different person. And I have different tastes, and I have different wants, and I know what boundaries are. And it's like, I don't want to be doing the things I was doing when I was 21. So it's like, I'm just at a point in my life where now I'm looking around and I'm having to ask myself, what do you want? What type of life do you want to build? And who do you want to be in that life? Like, your girl has no hobbies. Like, my hobbies were my creative things, but that is now my full-time job, and that is my passion. So now I have to find other hobbies, and it's just like, why didn't anybody tell me that finding hobbies was hard? Also costs $1 million. It's like, I'm very interested in sewing. I want to sew like my outfits. 300, 400, $500? And it's like, okay, I understand that, you know, you gotta pay people for their labor. I get that. But mamas, darling. So it's like, I have to now find hobbies that are affordable. But you know what? The good news is, the past year or so, things are on the up and up. Well, it hasn't even been a year. It's only been 6 months. I got a brand new job. I love her. I'm meeting really cool people. They're great. You know? So it's like, as I'm stacking my paper, as I'm building new connections, as I'm getting out of the house more because I no longer work remote, I'm in the office 3 freaking days a week. Sometimes more than that, you know? So it's like, I'm really having to ask myself, what do I want? Who do I want to be around? What do I like to do? What do I want to do in my free time that doesn't look like art in the sense that I know it, where it's like making content, doing arts and crafts, you know, those type of things. It's like, I want to be in a book club. I want to join a book. I love reading. I love films. I love a sport. You know, I want to get into a sport. I have no endurance, and I need to build that endurance up. Let me do a sport. You know, yeah. I'm thinking about friends. I'm thinking about like the levels of friends, because I didn't realize there was levels of friends. Did you know that? There's like your core group, your inner circle, and then there's the circle outside of that, which is like, you know, the people I'm cool with. And then it's the circle outside of that, and that's like, y'all are acquaintances. And I feel like I have had trouble with that, because I find someone and they're cool, I'll be like, yeah, they're my friend. And it's like, baby, that's an acquaintance. That's an acquaintance. That's not a person you tell your personal deep dark secrets to. You know, and it's like having to work on inner child stuff to the point where it's like, you can hang out with a person and realize you don't want to hang out with them anymore, and that's okay. That doesn't make you a bad person. That does not make you a bad person. Like, you can walk away from things that no longer serve you, because it's like, I am now in my 30s. why would I put up with anything that I don't have to put up with? If you're hanging out with someone and they say something weird, what's that song? I'm moving on to something better, better, better. And then when I say bye-bye, say bye-bye, say bye-bye to you. Goodbye. You have to leave my life. Goodbye. Like, I don't want to be putting up with the weirdness. If I feel something and I'm kind of like, what was that? What was that? Like, you can leave. You can exit. Because I'm cool. I am a very cool person. I look at my life and I be like, wow, that woman is cool. I look in the mirror and I'm like, wow, I like what I see. That is a cool person. I like who I am. You can now leave. So I will be taking some time to figure that out. And today I was feeling a little sad because it's like my best friend's going on a trip for a very long time. And, it's about to be Juneteenth. And I want to be out. And I was just thinking, like, who could I hit up? And it's like, that's the thing. It's like, I know I can hit up people, but it's also like, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. I really just have to take stock of my life and really just be like, who's actually in my life? Who do I actually want to hang out with? Because sometimes you've just outgrown people and you don't really realize it until you really have to stop and think, is this a person that belongs in my life still? And I met them 8 years ago. Like, do you still belong in my life? Or do you have to go? No shade, no tea. Like, no hard feelings, but I think you have to go. And this also got me thinking about community, because I was talking with my boyfriend and he said something very insightful where he was like, there was a situation where somebody had invited me to something or something was going on and I was kind of like, I don't feel like going. And he said, that is the cost of community. You go even though you don't want to, because that is the cost of building community and pouring into community. Like, you want to be a part of a community, right? You can't just be there not giving, not offering anything. And it's like, yeah, you're offering your presence and your amazingness and your sense of humor and your good vibes, but it's also like you have to show up, and that's the cost when you don't want to. And sometimes that's hard. But you gotta do it. And it's like, you have to reach out to the people. You have to keep up the building, and the building never stops, But it's also like, life right now is exhausting. Are we not tired? Where are we getting all this energy from? So I have things to think about, I have things to think about. Yeah. Friendship as an adult is very interesting. It's very interesting, but I will be taking the time to figure all of these things out, because when you do emotional work, it fundamentally changes you, and it changes certain areas in your life. When you go through certain big moments in your life, like a new job or moving to a new city, it changes you, and it changes certain areas of your life. But it's also like, the friendship area of my life has kind of been staying the same. And now that I have some big girl money, now that I know who I am, I can start asking myself certain questions and figuring out where that leads me and who that leads me to. And you know what? I'm very excited. I am very, very excited. So yes, I will keep you posted. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I will keep them posted. Yeah.